Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you guys are having a good day. Today I've been harvesting a little bit of kelp from my kelp farm, which was basically full before I started emptying it out, and I'm running a little bit of it through the blacksmith over there, through the super smelter we have set up over at Vulcan's blacksmith, and I'm getting myself some kelp blocks because at some time or another we're going to have to put those to use as fuel. Now, there is a new fuel on the block, as I'm sure many of you have pointed out from the bamboo episode. I missed out the fact that bamboo can be used as fuel, and while it will only smelt half of the amount of smelting time that a stick will, you can farm bamboo infinitely, so you can actually just grow it and then chop it up and use it as a fuel for an auto smelter. There are some good applications for bamboo. Alternatively, you can craft it into sticks and do it that way, but that involves a crafting step on the part of the player. So what I'm thinking about looking into soon is how we can expand our range of smelting applications and how we can use the kelp in here to the greatest effect. Now, bear in mind, by the way, that kelp also counts as a food, so it is possible to smelt kelp twice as fast in 1.14 now, thanks to the new smoker, which only cooks food, but does, I believe, cook kelp, meaning double the speed of fuel production when it comes to these dried kelp blocks. Once again, got to craft those into kelp blocks, but then feed them back into the system, and you have yourself virtually unlimited fuel. There are so many options presenting themselves and faster ways of achieving those options in this update. And today we're going to look at another way we can turn some of the new mechanics of 1.14 to our advantage. But we're not going to be looking at fuel. Instead, we're going to be looking at livestock, specifically the humble sheep, which we have had with us since day one. I'm pretty sure some of these sheep were even part of my original flock from the farm episode that we made. I think that was episode 2 of the series overall. Some of these sheep have been with us since the very beginning, and now there is a brand new way of shearing sheep, which is going to revolutionize the way we farm sheep and probably thin the herd down a little bit, thin the flock somewhat, because you can now automate the gathering of wool, which is the main reason I have these sheep in the first place. They're not here for food, they are here for wool. So I think we should take a look into that today, and for that, we're going to need a lot of shears. I have a few here. We have plenty of iron to be going on with, and yes, in future we are going to modify the iron farm, but for now I think we should be okay just to make a whole bunch of shears. We're also going to need some dispensers, some hopper minecarts, and a little bit of ingenuity. Welcome to the forest, just on the edge of Founder's Forge. The balloon is right up there, and here we have a roaming flock of wild sheep, all of whom will probably get very interested in the wheat I am holding. So that's kind of perfect, because what I want to do is show you guys a little bit about how sheep regrow their wool, which that one is kind of doing right now. Sheep will actually regrow their wool once they eat grass. Not even the tall grass, just a grass block. In fact, I think the tall grass may even prevent them from eating. But yeah, to regrow their wool, they have to eat some grass. So if we shear this one, it's not going to regrow its wool until it's eaten a block of grass, turning it into dirt, and eventually the grass around it will grow back over it, reverting it into a grass block again. Now, how can we turn this to our advantage? To start with, for this demonstration, we're going to suspend our grass block a few blocks above the ground, because the first thing I'm thinking about is a collection mechanism. Now, we have a couple of hoppers and hopper minecarts with us today. I think we're going to have an output chest there, place a hopper going into that, and then have a rail on top of the hopper with a hopper minecart on top of that. Let me grab a minecart out of my shulker box here. I prepared a few of these in advance, as you can see. And there we go. So now, anything that gets dropped on top of this grass block, in this case it's going to be the wool from this sheep, will end up being grabbed through the block by this hopper minecart and going into the hopper. Obviously, placing it like that isn't going to work. Let's throw it on top. There we go. That's gone through the hopper minecart and is now in the hopper ready to go to the output chest, which I haven't built one of, but imagine, you know, we've got an inventory there. So in theory, anytime a sheep was sheared on top of this block and its wool fell on top of the grass block, it would get sucked up by the hopper minecart and end up in the storage system. That is phase 1. Phase 2 is the automatic shearing, and for that we need no more than a dispenser here with a redstone signal going into it that's going to shear the sheep, and a set of shears in the dispenser's inventory. In fact, you can have up to 9 shears in a dispenser's inventory, not to mention that if you put a hopper input into the dispenser, it's going to have 5 more slots in there, and potentially storage for at least a double chest on top of here, so you could in theory have like almost 60 or 70 pairs of shears on deck at any one time. Now, thankfully, shears don't tend to take a huge hit in durability when they shear some wool, and you're usually going to get between 1 and 3 wool from shearing a sheep. Therefore, you will not have too hard of a time gathering a decent amount of wool with a moderate amount of shears. We're probably only going to fill up a single dispenser's worth of shears at a time just to keep things nice and simple, but having a delivery mechanism for the shears once we have the iron farm back up and running might be a good thing for the long-term operation of this farm. How are we going to trigger the dispenser is the next question. Obviously, you could do it manually, you could have some kind of lever or a redstone wire running to it, but there are some fun ways we can do this, in particular using an observer to detect when this block reverts from grass into dirt, i.e. when the sheep has eaten the grass to replenish its supply of wool. By detecting an update to this block, in this case it reverting from a grass block into a dirt block, using an observer we can send out a redstone pulse here whenever the sheep eats the grass on that block. Now if we place a single block here to conduct the redstone wire and have a redstone dot on top of there, like so, anytime this changes, like so, it's going to fire the dispenser, which in this case hasn't done anything because the shears can't take action. They also don't decrease in durability that way. It's much the same as, for example, having a bone meal dispenser next to a crop. If it can't grow the crop any further, it's not going to waste your bone meal. I now need to replace that with an actual grass block because the grass path won't revert back into dirt, but you get the idea. We need a grass block here. I can grab the dirt back out of there, and a sheep that sat on top of this, anytime it replenishes its wool, will now activate this dispenser and automatically shear it again. And each time it is sheared, in theory, if the wool pops onto this block, it will get pulled down by the hopper minecart and into the system. It's also worth noting that you could condense this whole thing because a hopper minecart is an entity rather than a block, and it can occupy the same space as a block. So, for example, let me get a crafting table set up here so I can make myself a redstone block. If we take out the rail from on top of that hopper, because that's going to prevent the piston from moving, and now, shazam, there we go. Okay, so that, that's now started a clock. We need to get rid of the observer. Oh gosh, making a bit of a mess here. But there you go. You can see that the hopper minecart is now sitting in this block here. And it doesn't look very pretty at the moment, but you could of course surround that with grass blocks. In fact, I intend to surround this with grass blocks because that's going to allow the grass to grow back over. But that could conceal the hopper minecart somewhat while allowing it to remain on top of that block, and still, if you throw any white wool on top of there, it's going to get picked up there and disappear into the storage system. So that's actually compacted the farm down even further than it was before. And now we move the observer down to detect the grass block once again. We put our redstone dot there, we put the dispenser back on top of this and add in the shears, and the sheep is now going to be eating off of this block. Now, of course, we have to get the sheep onto this block in the first place, which might be a bit of a struggle, but I think we can manage it. We're going to make it slightly easier for the sheep by surrounding this in glass so that they have a nice easy pen to walk into, and let's see if we can do this with a lead. Come on, up you go into the pen. Fantastic. Let's see if we can close the door behind you, like so. Brilliant. Okay, and this sheep is now fully contained inside of there. The problem is you don't want... There we go. It's happening right in front of us. Yes, okay, we have a sheep shearing system in place. We got 2 wool out of that. Fantastic. And let's check on the durability of the shears. There we go. 1 point of durability only. So that's perfect. Now let's talk about grass spread, because it's important that the grass in there replenishes so that the sheep can replenish its wool and the whole system can function over and over again. It is important that the blocks around the sheep be both transparent and entirely solid blocks. So for example, if we put fences there, it is possible that the sheep might end up eating the grass on one of the adjacent blocks, which is not being detected by the observer, and then the system wouldn't know when the sheep had replenished its wool, so it has to eat the grass off of that block in particular. At the same time, placing any other kind of solid block on top of these will limit the amount of light that's getting to the grass and will revert it into dirt. So if you're going to have grass blocks all the way around the outside here to allow for the maximum possibility of that dirt block in the middle replenishing its grass, you're going to need to have glass on top of all of it, because that's going to be the only way the grass around here does not revert into dirt with a block on top of it. So welcome to the future of automatic sheep farming. Even though we have to put these kind of ugly glass blocks everywhere, we can probably dress this whole thing up and make it look a little bit nicer, and this is going to be what sheep farms look like from now on. Automated with redstone as long as you've got the components, and a basically renewable source of wool being farmed constantly instead of the player having to be around the entire time to shear the sheep. Now the only thing that remains to do is to make 16 of these exact contraptions, one for each color of sheep, because if we want to have wool being farmed constantly from all the different colors of sheep, we will need to have each individual sheep captured in a system exactly like this. And for that, I feel like we can probably go to a time-lapse. Welcome back, folks. Hope you enjoyed the time-lapse. I figured this was going to be a good place to set up our automatic sheep shearing farm, and you can see it in action right about now. These sheep are all looking pretty cold, I guess, but hopefully they should be just fine in here. Nothing's going to get them for sure because we have trapdoors on top of each of these now, and that will also allow me to open these up and dye the sheep different colors if we want to do that in future. Of course, you have to be kind of quick about it because the sheep get sheared very, very quickly, but chances are if we can't just right-click on them fast enough with the dyes, then we could always just disable the mechanism temporarily, run a redstone signal into the dispensers to switch them on permanently so that they don't get triggered by the observer, or even just take the shears out of the dispenser if you want a lo-fi solution to that. But as you will probably see from opening these up, oh, I haven't dyed this one yet. This guy's still a white sheep. Well, no worries, I can always dye the wool in a second. But as you can see when we look into these barrels, and by the way, I chose barrels because we wanted to put them underneath the wool blocks here. The chest wouldn't open because there's a solid block on top of them, but barrels will. So that's actually quite a neat little trick that you can use if you've only got a limited amount of space, or if a chest kind of compromises the design of your farm. Use barrels instead. And what I'm finding is that this is remarkably efficient compared to, I mean, obviously with a huge flock of sheep, dyeing them different colors, you're going to be able to gather more wool, but it's actually shearing them at quite a rate. They recover their wool relatively quickly, the grass grows over relatively quickly too, and all we would need to do if we wanted to cover this over is just make sure it was well lit enough that the grass was still able to spread, and it would be absolutely fine. Grass will spread with artificial light as well as sky light, so you don't need to worry too much about that, but I just thought having it open to the sky for now would make sense. We get to enjoy how colourful this farm is, and then we could always build up a proper structure around it, and I've already done a back wall on the top row there just to demonstrate how we could do that. The sheep are going to be completely safe in here from wolves and anything else that might... I think wolves are the only things that go after sheep, but you never know. Something else might get implemented at some point. But they're going to be pretty safe there in these glass houses, and I think we're going to get a decent amount of coloured wool of all varieties from this. Remember that wool of any kind is also a trade with a shepherd, and I'm pretty sure they accept coloured wool as a trade for emeralds now. Instead of you having to buy coloured wool from them, I think you can trade it to shepherd villagers, so it might be possible to do that in future, and this could become a trading commodity as well as a useful resource for our own builds. I'm not going to be short of carpets anytime soon, that's for sure. The only concern now is making sure these dispensers around the back here are well stocked enough with shears, and it looks like the shears, I think they're taking durability from the shears randomly, but it looks like they will be fine for now. I don't see these running out anytime soon, and I haven't even filled up the dispenser with shears, which I could very easily do if I wanted to make sure that these were going to go for a little while. Of course, the other option is to just come in from the top and place a hopper with a chest full of new shears, and you can guarantee that those would be set pretty much for the duration. So maybe in the fullness of time we'll do a little bit of extra decorating around here, but for now I think it looks pretty nice. And we still have a flock of sheep over here in the barn. These folks aren't going anywhere. I'm probably just going to dye all of them back to white and have that be a white wool resource for in the events that, you know, we need wool but color isn't necessarily a priority. So we're going to be harvesting wool automatically from all 16 colors over there, and still having a herd of sheep, a flock of sheep rather, in the barn ready to be sheared for more white wool. And that's going to be a really great resource to have in the future. I hope you guys will enjoy this design in your own worlds. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. My name has been Pixlriffs. Don't forget to leave a like on this episode if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.